Being a horror film about pornography, you can expect a lot of screams from this one. The good kind and the bad kind.
Are you all right?
No.
X is the latest effort from horror filmmaker Ty West, and it sees him teaming up with A24, who's become our favorite studio known for elevated horror, slow burn, atmospheric, psychological type stuff lately. And it's his first film since 2016's In a Valley of Violence, which is actually the only film of his I've seen. It's not a horror film, but I quite enjoyed it. But I'd lump him in with Adam Wingard, these sort of like indie filmmakers who all came up helping each other out. And he made films like The House of the Devil, The Innkeepers, The Sacrament. And he's kind of known as a guy who's good at throwing back to eras of the genre's past. And X is no different and maybe even the purest example of that yet. So it's set in 1979 and it follows a film crew who head out to a secluded farmhouse that they've rented from an old couple to try and shoot the next great American porno. They're trying to corner the home video market and, they're really putting a lot of work into making this their big break to get rich. And while this is definitely a throwback to 70s slashers, especially Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it does a lot of great things to subvert that genre as well, namely in regards to sex and how it represents it and how characters are treated for being sexual beings, and it also ties into the themes of the villain, which I won't spoil. It does a lot of really interesting things with sex in that regard because it is such an important part of the plot, and it is used as more than just a shock or thrill-seeking device. It has some ideas, despite what is actually a pretty simple, pretty no-frills slasher movie, which I really, really appreciated it for. You've got a good cast here, and Mia Goth, for all intents and purposes, is the lead of this thing, and she gives a really great and really layered performance. She is doing so much here, stuff that you don't even notice or realize until the film is over, which is why I'm very, very excited to see it again when it releases wide here. You've also got Jenna Ortega, who has absolutely been killing it in 2022. I'd never heard of her before Scream, and now she's been in everything. Scream, Studio 666, The Fallout, which she was excellent in, and she delivers another great performance here, really cementing herself as maybe the next big thing when it comes to Scream Queens. But she's more than a Scream Queen. She can really do it all. She has so much charisma, and but going off the Scream Queen thing, she lets out one hell of a scream in this film, and she's really, really great in it. Brittany Snow, kind of playing against type here, is one of the main porn stars in this thing, and she delivers a really, really great, really confident performance. And you've also got Kid Cudi as maybe the best named character in the film, Jackson Hole, who's a very, very cocksure porn star, and he was very, very funny in this film, and he really gave a lot to it. So yeah, it sets up these entertaining characters that, while they aren't super deep, they're definitely interesting, and they're both easy to root for and fun to watch die, if that makes sense. And I think Mia Goth's character actually is deceptively kind of deep, and we learn more about her as the film goes on. So unsettling from the get-go, old people are always creepy, and it's a tactic that horror movies have been using since the dawn of time. But this old couple are really the looming presence here that we don't really know what they're all about. Can we trust them? Are they going to be the murderers? Are they just a weird old couple that are a red herring? But they become a key figure in this plot, and it goes to some really interesting places with them. It is all about the blood, guts, and gross outs and sex, but it still really builds a lot of atmosphere, and that was really my favorite thing about this film, the tone and the atmosphere. It manages to be very funny and make fun of the genre, but it's also kind of scary. And I don't say that lightly. Not a lot of films really get under my skin here, but I just felt so uneasy for the entire runtime of X, and it's really one of the grossest horror movies I've seen in a while. And you'll know what I'm talking about once you watch it, but it's so delightfully icky, and it's also very, very funny. It was great to watch with a crowd, lots of awkward, nervous laughter where we weren't sure if we were supposed to be laughing or not, and that's kind of the perfect place to be in for a movie like this. It's beautifully shot, and I really, really love the score that sort of incorporates some diegetic sounds and moaning and stuff like that. And it was really like unnerving. They managed to get a few decent scares just out of the score kicking in, and the way it builds to a certain climactic scene I thought was really impressive. And yeah, X is a film that really gets stronger and stronger as it goes on. And for the last 20 minutes or so, I just had the biggest, stupidest grin on my face at the utter carnage that was unfolding. If I had a qualm with this, it would be that I think the kills could have been executed a little better. There's a lot of style, and it does sort of really relish some of them. But for a film that's throwing back to a really gritty era of filmmaking that was known for its pure fear factor, the kills in this did feel a little pedestrian. I'm not saying every slasher movie has to reinvent the wheel, but there were some moments here where you're like, oh, that's it? The gore is great, but I think it probably could have taken it even further than it did. And for a film that is a slasher movie that's really focused on gore, a lot of the fear factor in this came from the tone and the narrative, which I actually kind of appreciated. So X, I'm going to give X an 8 out of 10. And of the horror films we've gotten so far this year, it's definitely my favorite. And it's one that I'm really looking forward to seeing again, hopefully with a crowd. It's fun, it's icky, it's gory, it's gross, it's full of great performances, it's beautifully shot, and I think it's a real highlight for Ty West, and should be a calling card for whatever weird shit he wants to make in the future. X hits Australian theaters this Thursday, and I highly recommend going out to see it if you're into this sort of stuff. It's a really, really great time. That's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching, as always. See you next time.